Hello students, in the last lecture we have started with the biomolecules. Biomolecules, the chemical molecules which are associated with life. So far we have finished with the monosaccharide, the first group of carbohydrates which are the monosaccharides we have done in the last lecture. And today we will be discussing with the next group of the compounds which are oligosaccharides. So in the case of monosaccharides, I have told you those are the simple sugar units, out of which all these complex carbohydrates or oligosaccharides will be made up of. Then what are oligosaccharides, children? Oligosaccharides are complex sugars. If you compare with the monosaccharides, they are said to be complex. If you are comparing with the polysaccharides, oligosaccharides are said to be the less complex structures. These are made up of few sugar units and they may be branched or unbranched. Again, the single chain of the oligosaccharide, it can be forming the branches. And these branched structures are very rare. We will be mainly seeing these oligosaccharides in the straight chain conformation. When we have discussed with the monosaccharides, I have told you that the monosaccharides are made up of few carbon atoms like 3 to 7. And here we will be discussing with the sugar units. Why? Because oligosaccharides are in turn made up of many sugars. In monosaccharide, it is only one sugar unit, and hence we have discussed with the number of carbon atoms. The number of carbon atoms will be ranging from 3 to 7 in the case of a single sugar unit. So what are the examples we have discussed? We have glucose, we have fructose, we have the ribose, and also the deoxyribose. Different type of monosaccharides we have discussed, the pseudoheptulose, heptulose. So all these different type of monosaccharides, they will be having the simple carbon atoms and they will be made up of 3 to 7 carbon atoms. And here in the case of oligosaccharides, how these oligosaccharides are formed? Yes, they are formed by the joining of the sugar units. How many sugar units? It will range from 2 to 10. The sugars, the minimum sugars that has to be present for a carbohydrate to be called as an oligosaccharide is 2. And the maximum limit will be 10. So if the oligosaccharides will have 2 sugars, we call it as disaccharide. So what are the examples? I will be giving certain examples here. If it is having 2 sugar units, it is known as disaccharide, and the examples for it. So the disaccharide, the examples I have given, if 2 sugar units are present, we call such carbohydrate as the disaccharide, or oligosaccharides as disaccharide. Okay, and here what are the examples? We have sucrose, which is known as the table sugar or cane sugar. Okay, it is mainly present in the sugar cane. And next we have maltose. Maltose, it is the malt sugar. It is mainly present in the sprouted barley seeds. Okay, the sprouted barley seeds will contain the maltose. And next we have lactose. We all are familiar with this lactose compound. It is mainly seen in the case of milk, naturally present in the milk. We have cellobiose, trehalose, and cellobiose, it is mainly present in traces, children. Generally in the living organisms, this compound, it is present in traces. And we have trehalose. This is very important. It is present in the hemolymph of the insects. Okay, so this is regarding the disaccharides. And next we have trisaccharides. Then now you can understand what is the meaning of the trisaccharide. Disaccharide, if it is having 2 units, the trisaccharide will contain 3 sugar units. Okay, so if they have 3 sugar units, we call it as trisaccharide. And here we have an example, raffinose, rabinose. Okay, so for trisaccharide we have raffinose and rabinose. And again, if 4 sugars are bonded together, we call it as tetrasaccharide, and the example will be the stachyose. And if it is 5, we call it as pentasaccharide, and the example will be verbascose. Mainly the stachyose and verbascose, these are mainly seen in the case of legume plants. Okay, so leguminaceae members like groundnut, pea, all these plants will be having these compounds like stachyose and verbascose. Okay, so this is regarding the different type of oligosaccharide compounds, and now let us see how these oligosaccharides are formed. So look at this, children. So here I have given monosaccharides will join together to form 2 compounds, oligosaccharides and polysaccharides. Oligosaccharides will mainly, generally it will range from 2 to 10, and rarely you can see the 20 units. The 20 units, it is rarely seen, children. Generally, we have 2 to 10 sugar units. Then they are known as the oligosaccharide. Above 20 units, if the sugars are present, we call them as the polysaccharides. Then tell me, how these oligosaccharides are mainly formed here? We all know they are formed by the joining of the monosaccharide units. Saccharide means sugar. It is the sugar. Saccharide is the term, it's a Greek word which means the sugar. Okay, now let us see. So if the monosaccharides, they are joined, they must have some chemical bond. And what this chemical bond is known as? It is known as the glycosidic bond. So the bond between the monosaccharides, is known as the glycosidic bond. Then how do you define this glycosidic bond? How this glycosidic bond is formed? So here the glycosidic bond, it is mainly formed with the active groups of the sugar. I have told you in the monosaccharides there are 2 active groups of the sugar. If the sugar is present, they can be either contain the aldehyde group or they will contain the ketone group, which are highly reactive in nature. If aldehyde group is present, we call them as aldoses. If the ketone group is present, we call them as the ketoses. Aldoses means they have aldehyde group, which is CHO, and ketone group is the C double bond O, that is the carbonyl carbon. Okay, so these 2 groups are highly reactive, and such compounds, they will be forming the glycosidic bonds. Wherever they are reactive, they will be joining and they will be forming the glycosidic bond. So here the bond between monosaccharides or between a sugar and any other molecule, we call it as a glycosidic bond. So what is glycosidic bond, children? It is a bond between a monosaccharide to another sugar, or it can be between a sugar and any other molecule. We call such bond as the glycosidic bond. And the compound which is attached to the sugar, or if different sugars they are added, we call such compounds as glycosides, or simply you can say the compound which is having this glycosidic bond, they are said to be the glycosides. Okay, so these are the most important points here. The bond between the sugars will be glycosidic bond, and here the number of the compounds having this glycosidic bonds are said to be the glycosides. Okay, and here it is mainly which reaction that is forming this glycosidic bond. So there are 2 important reactions. One is anabolic reaction and other is a catabolic reaction. Anabolic reaction means formation or joining of this saccharides. I have discussed. The catabolism means breakdown. Anabolism means making up of the compounds. And here if you see, here the 2 sugars are added, or 3 sugars will be added, which is said to be the anabolic reaction. If the bonds are broken down to form simple sugars, we call it as the catabolic reaction. Here we are mainly discussing with the joining of the compounds, which is the anabolic reaction. So in this anabolic reaction, the major reaction which is taking place is the condensation reaction. So how this glycosidic bond is formed? It is mainly with the condensation reaction. So here we will take one example and I will be explaining regarding this condensation reaction. Okay. So let us see. I have taken the example of maltose. Maltose is a malt sugar. I have told it's a disaccharide. So it is made up of 2 sugars. And here the maltose, it is made up of 2 sugars which are similar in nature. 2 glucose units, they will bind together to form which structure? The maltose. So this is only one sugar where similar units of sugars are attached. In the case of sucrose, we have fructose and in the case of sucrose, we have the fructose and glucose. Okay, and we have lactose where glucose and galactose will be added. But here in the case of maltose, we have 2 similar sugars which are glucose units. This is one glucose unit and this is another glucose unit. So before, in the previous video, I have told you that the glucose will be having two structure, chain as well as a ring structure. So with the ring structure, I am explaining this. So let us see, this is a disaccharide made up of glucose units, two glucose units. This is one glucose, this is another glucose. So look at this. So here I have marked the carbons starting from 1 till 6. And here again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And if you observe the structure here, both these glucose units, they will come together in such a way that the first carbon will be reacting with the fourth carbon. Here, look at this, how this will happen. So here, the OH group of the first carbon, and here the hydrogen. So in this way, mainly the first carbon, it will be reactive and it will be joined to the hydroxyl group here in the first carbon. It will be joined with the hydrogen of the fourth group and it is removed in the form of water. And this reaction, it is said to be the condensation reaction. So process of linking monosaccharide is a condensation reaction where there is a release of water molecule. Okay, so here these two units will be removed like this in the form of water and condensation will take place. The bond will be formed here. When this is removed, we have an oxygen here, and with this oxygen, both these sugars will be jointed like this. So look at the structure. So here there is the formation of the glycosidic bond. So this is a glycosidic bond and this is one glucose unit and this is two, and both these glucose units, they are jointed together with the help of glycosidic bond. And now it is no more glucose, now it is said to be the maltose unit. And if you consider the reverse reaction, so now you will take this maltose, so this is maltose children, and this maltose, if you take this maltose and you want to break this maltose, means you want to liberate this monosaccharides from the maltose, so that you will get two glucose units. And here, if you see the reverse reaction, so like this, the maltose, it is converted into 2-glucose with the dissolution of this glycosidic bond. If the glycosidic bond it is dissoluted, it will result in 2 single glucose units, monomer units. And here, it requires 1 water molecule. For the formation of glycosidic bond, we have seen 1 water molecule will be released and this glycosidic bond will be formed, which is known as condensation reaction. And what about the reverse reaction? Both these units, they will be released as monomers from the disaccharide unit by the addition of the water molecule. And such process is known as hydrolysis. We all know in chemistry, addition of water molecule in the reaction, we call such reaction as the hydrolysis reaction. And removal of water molecule will be known as condensation reaction. So this is regarding the formation of glycosidic bond and the destruction of the glycosidic bond. In this way, the sugars can be formed or they can be break down to form the monomer units. So look at the structure carefully. So let us say, so here I have marked it, children, the numbers. So this is the first glucose unit and this is the second glucose unit, and where the joining has taken place. The joining has taken place in the region of first carbon in the first glucose and fourth carbon in the fourth glucose. So in this case, the glycosidic bond, it is described as alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond. So in the case of maltose, what is a glycosidic bond, children? It is formed between the first carbon of the first glucose to the fourth carbon of the second glucose, and this is said to be the alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond. Okay, in the same way, we have different type of disaccharides, and all these disaccharides will be formed by the condensation reaction, and when they are hydrolyzed, they will be giving the monomeric units. So I have explained this to know how this glycosidic bond formation will be taking place, and this is important mainly regarding your NEET. You will be having these questions. The number of glycosidic bonds that are present in a Carbohydrate, that will be asked. Let us say if the sugar units are 10, how many glycosidic bonds will be formed? Obviously for 2 sugar units we have 1 glycosidic bond. Then the answer will be 5. So this is very important, children, the glycosidic bond formation. For 2 sugar units, you will have 1 glycosidic bond. In the same way, if it is asked for the 20 sugar units, you will be having how many bonds? 10 glycosidic bonds. So this is how you will calculate the glycosidic bonds. Next. So here in the case of the maltose, the alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond it is given here. So what is alpha here? I have told you 1,4 means the carbon of the first glucose and the fourth is the carbon of the second glucose. Then what about alpha? So here we have discussed in the introduction of in the monosaccharides. I have told you there are 2 forms of the sugar, alpha and the beta form. So in monosaccharides we have discussed that this alpha and beta conformation, it is mainly given based upon the position of the OH group on the first carbon to the OH group on the 6th carbon or the last carbon if it is 5th carbon. And here if you observe the first carbon, the OH if it is in the same direction, we call it as the alpha. If you look at the structure of these 2 glucoses, here it is the OH group on the first carbon, it is opposite to the OH group on the 6th carbon. Then it will be called as the beta. If it is like this, if the OH it is present like this and here we have the H group, we call it as the alpha form. If both hydroxyl groups will be facing each other on the same direction, we call it as alpha. If they are in the opposite direction, this OH will be facing upward and this will be downward, we will call it as a beta form. Then tell me which form of glucose it is? It is beta form. So if it is present here, if both the OHs, if they are present above, we call it as alpha form. If they are present below or opposite direction, we call it as the beta form. So here it is mainly forming the alpha or beta glycosidic bond. The chances are equal. But here in this picture, we have the beta glycosidic bond. So look at the structure here carefully, children. Here in this case, it is a beta glycosidic bond. Why? Because the OH is opposite to the last carbon or the 6th carbon. Okay, so we will be working with another example, and here I will be taking the chain structure so that it will be very clear for you. So this is a structure of maltose. Now we will be working with the other example, that is sucrose. Sucrose, it is again a disaccharide and it is made up of 2 different sugars. In maltose we have the similar sugars, glucose and the glucose, they will join together to form the 1,4 glycosidic bond and it will form the maltose. And in the sucrose we have 2 different sugar, glucose, it is joined to the fructose. And I have told you that the active forms of the sugars are mainly the aldehyde groups and the ketone groups. So here if you observe, this is a fructose structure and I have told you that it will have a ketone group. And here is the glucose structure which will have an aldehyde, aldose and the ketose. And here if you see the structure of the fructose, all these carbon atoms in a linear chain will be presented like this. But normally the sugars will occur in the ring form. During the ring formation, what will happen, children? The carbon in carbon, it will be reacting with the alcoholic group of the 5th carbon and it will form a furanose ring. I have told you for the fructose, it is furanose ring. And remaining sugars, they mainly showing the pyranose ring. If you want to know these terms, you can check with the previous videos and look at this. So this type of chain structure, it is converted like this. Look at this. This is 5-membered ring which is known as furanose ring. Okay. So this is the structure of fructose. And look at this structure. This is glucose now. This is glucose and this is fructose. How is the glucose? The glucose, here the reaction will be different. What is the active group here? Here it is the ketone group and hence the ketone group, it is reacting with the alcoholic group. But here in the case of the aldose, glucose, the aldehyde group will be the active group which is reacting with the alcohol. and it will form this structure. Okay, so when they are jointed, it will be showing this configuration. So there is a lot of chemistry. We are not talking about how these structures are formed and what will be present, what groups will be released. That we are not discussing here. Simply remember this fructose, this is the chain form, and it will be forming a furan ring, which is a 5-membered ring, and the glucose, it is converted into a pyran ring. Now, we'll discuss with the glycosidic bond formation. So this is the sucrose molecule, which is made up of, it's a disaccharide, as it is made up of 2 monosaccharide units. One is glucose, other is the fructose. And during the bond formation, generally, if the structure, in the case of the maltose, we have seen the glycosidic bond, it is formed between the carbon 1 of the glucose with the carbon 4 of another glucose. But in this case, we have different type of bond formation. The second carbon, it will be the active carbon. Okay, so here we don't have the 4th carbon. We are, if you look at the structure, the second is the active carbon, as I said you before. So the second carbon, it is aligned, it will be flipped and it will be aligned in this manner, and this will be reacting with the first carbon of the glucose. Obviously, the first carbon is the reactive group. So the first carbon of glucose reacting with the second carbon of the fructose, and finally they will form a glycosidic bond. Okay, so this is O, which is present. So how the glycosidic bond is formed? Look at this, the OH group and the H group, it will be removed like this. So here OH of the glucose and H hydrogen of the fructose, they will be reacting and it is removed as water. And I have told you this is the condensation reaction. So what will happen in condensation reaction? Both of these molecules, they will be joined and they release the water molecule, thus forming a glycosidic bond. And what type of glycosidic bond it is? Can you tell me, is it alpha glycosidic or beta glycosidic bond, children? First we will see with respect to the glucose. With respect to the glucose, the first carbon is having the alcoholic group downwards compared to the 6th carbon opposite. So here it will be beta. For glucose it is beta. And what about the fructose molecule? The fructose molecule, we have the 6th carbon here, and here we have another OH, it is not given. So here this is the 6th carbon and we will be observing with the 1st carbon. Here it is again, OH will be in opposite orientation. Then again it will be the beta. So for both we have the beta, and hence we commonly call it as beta 1,4 glycosidic bond. Okay. So clear with this, children? So here what I am trying to say is the condensation reaction will release a water molecule, and when the water molecule it is released, these two molecules will be joined together. What are the two molecules, children? Glucose and the fructose, and they will form a glycosidic bond. And naming this bond, how we will name this bond? It can be alpha or beta. Sometimes here it is alpha for one sugar. It can be beta for the other sugar. Then we will say alpha beta glycosidic bond. But here we have the same orientation for glucose as well as the fructose, and we commonly written it as the beta 1,4 glycosidic bond. Sometimes even L-glucose, D-glucose, D-fructose, all these terms are given, but it is not required here. Mainly, these terms are important regarding your NEET exam. Okay. And another important disaccharide we have galactose. Okay. So we are not going to discuss all the structures. Only I have given two examples. One we have discussed with maltose, which is made up of 2 glucose units, and next I have discussed with the sucrose, which is again a disaccharide made up of glucose and the fructose units. In that way, we have discussed with many examples trisaccharides, pentasaccharides, tetrasaccharides. So simply you will learn the examples. Only you have to memorize all these things. All these chemical reactions, it is not necessary, but it is necessary to know the formation of the glycosidic bond, and hence I have given the chemical structures of two examples. I have explained with the two examples. Okay, and next we'll be discussing with the polysaccharides. Before discussing with the polysaccharide, we have another important topic, that is reducing and non-reducing sugars. So what are reducing and what are non-reducing sugars, that we'll be discussing, and later I will be discussing with the polysaccharides. So next are the reducing and non-reducing sugars. Those are not the categories of sugars. Based upon their chemical behavior, the sugars are said to be reducing or non-reducing. What are reducing sugar? If the sugar, it is reactive. If the sugar is reactive in the formation of glycosidic bond or formation of the glycosidic bond with any other molecule, we call it as a reducing sugar. When it is showing this glycosidic bond formation, only when the reactive groups are free. Obviously, I have told you that there are only two reactive groups for the sugars. Either it should contain an aldehyde or a ketone group. Both these groups, when they are present in the molecule or any one of the groups, and when these groups are present, the molecule in turn react to form the glycosidic bond. If these free groups are absent in any type of sugar, we call that sugar as a non-reducing sugar. Right? So let us see. So here, based upon the nature of the sugars or their chemical behavior, the sugars are of two types. One is reducing sugar and other is the non-reducing sugar. And this is mainly classified based upon its reaction with certain kind of chemical reagents, mainly which is used in the laboratories to test the glucose in the urine, or you can say the sugars in the urine. Okay, and here the reagent which is mainly used is the Benedict's reagent or Felling's reagent. We will talk regarding the Benedict's reagent. Benedict's reagent, it mainly contains, it's a complex molecule which is having a copper as a part of it. When the solution is added with the Benedict's reagent, the copper inside this Benedict's reagent, it will be reduced when the sugars are present. The copper will be reacting with these reducing sugars. If they are non-reducing sugars, it will not show any color change. So there are two reactions here. If there are sugars inside the sample solution, the color change will be taking place. If there is no sugar or reducing sugar, particularly reducing sugar, we cannot see any visible reaction. Then what are reducing sugars here? All the monosaccharides are said to be the reducing sugars. Reducing sugars are the ones which will have their reactive groups. I have told you the sugars are active as they contain the functional groups. One is aldehyde and other is a ketone. And when these free groups are present for reaction, we call such sugars as reducing sugars. And here, coming to the Benedict's reagent, and when the solution will contain these sugars, the copper ions will be reacting with the sugars and they will show certain color change. It will be a visible reaction. If there are no reducing sugars with active groups, there will be no color change. Then what about the non-reducing sugars? If reducing sugars are the ones having active groups, the non-reducing will be the opposite. That is nothing but if the active groups are absent, if aldehyde and ketone groups are absent, they cannot react with the copper and hence they will not show any color change or any reaction. And such sugars are known as the non-reducing sugar. Generally, all the sugars, all the monosaccharide sugars are reducing sugars, and we have one exception, children, for disaccharide molecule. We have discussed regarding sucrose. In sucrose, what will happen? The glucose and the fructose are reacted, and the active parts in both the sugar, they will be held in the glycosidic bond formation. So second group of the ketone group is present on the second carbon of the fructose. And for the glucose, I have told you it is a first carbon, which is aldehyde group. So both aldehyde as well as a ketone group, both are associated with the glycosidic bond. So they are involved in glycosidic bond formation, and hence we don't have any free groups. If it is either ketone or aldehyde, they must be present. Any one group will do. If both the groups are absent, the color change will not be taking place. Okay, so we have the sucrose as example for the non-reducing sugar, and all the monosaccharides will be coming under the reducing sugar. Then what about the polysaccharides, children? Even in the polysaccharides or large complex carbohydrates, wherever the aldehyde group or ketone group, it is free to add, they will show the color change, and they are said to be the reducing sugar. If all the groups are involved in the bond formation, then we will say they are non-reducing. Generally we have the reducing type because at least one group will be free tone, and that will be showing the reducing nature. Okay, so this is how we will be classifying the sugars into reducing and the non-reducing. So this is regarding the reducing and the non-reducing sugars. So here I have given examples, children. Along with the sucrose, we have another compound which is the trehalose. Trehalose we have discussed. This is also a disaccharide. I have given an example. Sucrose, trehalose, both are the disaccharides, and these are the best examples for the non-reducing sugars. And these non-reducing sugars, they doesn't have aldehyde or ketone group. Why? Because they are preoccupied or they are involved in the glycosidic bond formation. Okay, and what about the reducing sugars? They will be having the pre-aldehyde and the ketone group, and hence they have the ability to reduce or react with the copper ions present in the Benedict's reagent. And what is the clinical significance? I have told you this test, it is mainly used to detect the reducing and non-reducing sugars in the urine, or the sugars in the urine. Okay, so this is regarding the oligosaccharides, and next we'll be discussing with the polysaccharides.